Attention. Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 3 spoilers are coming on the following live stream. You have been warned. Yes, oh my goodness, Stephen Fishback. The Battle of Winterfell is over, but we are just getting started on our recap live after Season 8, Episode number 3 of Game of Thrones. And Stephen Fishback, wow. Oh my goodness, Stephen Fishback.
What an episode. There was the screen was dark and full of terrors. From what I could make out, there was a lot of crazy insanity that happened. A huge battle scene. I need to watch it again with higher contrast. But I really like.
Yeah, I turned off all the lights and closed all the blinds.
If I was not like somewhat immobile, I would have done the exact same thing because it was a little too bright in my apartment to totally catch what was happening. But boy, some huge moments that we've been waiting for years if you're a show watcher, decades if you're a book reader, and just oh my gosh, such crazy payoff. Highs in this episode. I also thought there were some lows. There were things that were building that I didn't feel were paid off. But I'm really excited to talk about it.
Okay, so a lot to recap tonight on a jam-packed hour and 20 minutes of Game of Thrones that was almost nonstop all the way through. They let you catch your breath a couple of times when people were hiding different places. But boy, a lot of stuff happened. We'll try our best to go through it all. Of course, Stephen Fishback, if you're watching the video, he suffered injuries at the Battle of Winterfell tonight. Stephen, in all seriousness, how are you holding up after your recent shoulder surgery?
I'm great. If you can see this, the live stream, I have a giant ice cuff attached to my right arm. It's a song of ice cuff and fiery takes. So I'm rehabbing well. I am not on. I know people will be disappointed to hear I am not on any major opiates anymore.
Okay, that was a big hit on the Survivor Know-It-Alls that time that you were on painkillers.
Yeah, I was thinking of prolonging my addiction for the hilarious, comedy of our conversation. But then I thought, heroin epidemic, maybe I'll take a step away from
All right. So, Stephen, I guess let's get into everything. We are going to, if you have something to say, send me a tweet at Rob Sesternino. I've got my Twitter open on one of the many computers that power this podcast. Of course, our feedback show, Josh Wigler, may not go to bed tonight. Too much to cover for this 80-minute jam-packed episode, but we will get together with Josh, I believe, on Wednesday this week for our Game of Thrones feedback show. Send in your questions to got@postshowrecaps.com. Stephen, I guess just big picture, what was your reaction to this one of the most hyped episodes of television of all time?
I mean, I try to just sit back and enjoy it. Usually when I'm watching these things, I'm taking notes and thinking what I'm going to say afterwards. I just was really enjoyed sitting back, watching it, being overwhelmed by it, getting caught up in the emotion of it. There's so many huge moments. I mean, I honestly, when Ghost was charging into battle alongside the Dothraki, I got a little teary. I mean, it's, I guess, the second time getting teary this season. Just some really cool moments. Obviously, the big thing that happened was this build towards this huge conflict between Jon and the Night King. It feels like they've got the slow music playing. The Night King is walking slowly across the battleground. Jon is dodging in and out. He's got the dragon breathing, ice fire on him. And then boom, out of nowhere, just as all seems lost for Jon, Arya comes in with her, special blade and saves the day.
Okay, well, let's start with Arya here, because I think that she was the unlikely hero for if you were going to take the Vegas odds of who was going to take out the Night King. I think that you would have had Jon Snow as a heavy favorite, Bran warging into something, Daenerys in the mix, but Arya Stark being the person who sneaks up behind the entire White Walker army as the Night King in true Bond villain fashion walks ever so slowly up to do whatever he needs to do with Bran, and then ends up being the person to stab him. Correct me if I'm wrong, that was the Valyrian steel cat's paw dagger that was a big MacGuffin in season 7.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that is exactly what that blade was. I could be wrong. Again, really hard to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do like that the ultimate weapon, which takes out the Night King, does have some ties back to Littlefinger somehow, where Littlefinger ultimately used that dagger as to start the war between the Starks and the Lannisters, and then brings it back out for seemingly no reason in season 7. Ultimately kills Littlefinger and the Night King, one murder weapon.
How did you like it being Arya?
Yeah. Okay. And then we want to get confirmation. I'm seeing in the chat that it's not the cat's paw dagger. Was that the weapon that Gendry invented for her?
No, the Gendry weapon was the one where she
gave
was doing
it to
her
Sansa, right?
Two-handed. No. That was when she was doing her like two-handed slicing and dicing up on the ramparts, where she like was doing her like bow attacks, and then bow staff attacks, and then she like split it in two and was like cutting off people's heads. That was the thing that Gendry invented.
Yeah. Okay. So the chat is split between what it was, and that's one of the things about doing the show right after the episode. I'm sure Josh and many other experts will sort this all out tomorrow. But the headline at this hour: Night King is dead here, and the menace of the dead and the White Walkers is over here. 3 episodes into this final season.
Yeah, was it kind of like a dick move for the other White Walkers to not, stop her? She came from behind him, so they must have seen her coming.
Their eye was certainly off the ball. I mean, I don't know that why the Night King necessarily, he controls all these other people, why he needed such an audience for what he was going to do with Bran. Like, hey, everybody, check this out. All right, the big moment's about to happen.
But that's just his posse. Like, they don't seem to do very much. They just kind of like go where he goes and like look ominous. So we haven't really seen them be very active in any capacity, have we?
Who, the other White Walkers?
Yeah, they hand him like his javelin.
They're a bunch of hanger-ons.
Yeah, exactly.
They're all they're like his entourage. They don't do anything.
Yeah, there's entourage. That's what I was going for. Yeah, they're like they like make sure he looks fly and give him his javelin.
There's Turtle, there's Johnny Drama, sure. There's E, but no, the Night King, Steven, is are you happy with the way that this worked out? Because I think that probably if you would have asked the Game of Thrones fan base a couple of years ago, what's the last episode of Game of Thrones look like? I think you probably would have described the scene that we saw in this episode tonight.
That of Arya taking out the
Night King? Not Arya, but specifically like the battle. Oh, it's got to be a big battle, everybody against the White Walkers, but that's over with 3 episodes to go.
Yeah, and so that was the big question, right? Like, do the White Walkers die before the kind of the Cersei drama plays out? And I guess we have our answer. Yeah, it's crazy. The White Walkers are dead. Like, they're done. Like, that storyline is over. We've been talking about it. You've been talking about it a lot for years. We've been thinking about it. Since the very first scene of Game of Thrones is the night. Is the undead coming back, and now they're done.
Okay,
they're
let me ask you this. Was the ultimate journey worth the ride?
So your question is like, is the end of it? I mean, it did feel like it ended. I mean, it's hard to say. Like, what's abruptly? I mean, like, it's been this looming menace for the entire series of the show.
Yeah.
There've been huge defeats at the hand. Hardhome, huge defeats at the hands of the White Walkers, and you had this 90-minute giant battle where basically everyone dies. Although, not that many big characters.
Yes, it was not nearly the bloodbath for the principal cast that many were expecting.
And I actually think that was maybe my biggest, my only criticism, or also my biggest criticism with the show tonight was that, the fan base, and maybe this is the problem with having, week-to-week episodes rather than streaming episodes. It's like the fan base has been anticipating this, like, who's going to die? Who are we going to lose? We're ready for our emotional trauma tonight.
Right.
We were all highly prepped to lose someone we love, to feel great things. And kind of like, like Dolorous Ed, like I was okay saying
Ed was the first to go, but the named character body count for tonight. So Ed, Lyanna Mormont.
Lyanna Mormont. Herself, like, not a huge character. She's been probably, I loved her. I've been a big Lyanna fan for.
We all are. We all are. Beric Dondarrion. Theon Greyjoy. And Jorah Mormont.
And that's it. And none of those are the real marquee, except Jorah, I guess. Other than Jorah, no real marquee characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, none of the like A-list cast went out in this episode. I mean, I don't think that anybody expected that, but I think that people were really expecting like all of these. Didn't think Podrick Payne was coming out of this.
Podrick, Grey Worm. I really thought we were getting a Knight of the Realm too. I thought that was her. That was her big moment.
Oh yeah, and Melisandre also.
Right, Melisandre also dies. Yeah. But by her own choice. She's like, you know what, I've had enough.
What else is there for Melisandre that she served her purpose? Then Melisandre, kind of the other than Arya, the MVP of the night.
Yeah, really. She held back the dead with the firewall. And then kind of was that was her big moment.
Yeah,
but that was key.
Yeah, I mean, she showed up. She really, seems to have her magic on point. She is one that has certainly faced her doubts, but that she was a key contributor. And really, when we're gonna look at who did anything tonight on the side of the good guys, hard to really come up with a list of good guys that were major contributors.
Yeah, everyone kind of. I mean,
and look, I hate to be this guy. But Jon Snow, kind of useless throughout the night.
Did not do really very much of anything. They kind of like he flapped around a bit. His dragon got killed. He was killed, right? Rhaegal was killed.
Is that official?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it seemed like. I mean, it sure looks like Drogon, made it out. Even in the end scene, I was like, is Drogon like resting or is he dead? But we saw him in the preview for next week, so it looks like Drogon made it out alive. But I think Rhaegal's done.
The chat is split on this. Again, we need to sort out the body count on this. So yeah, Jon Snow did a lot of running around.
Yeah,
but ultimately, Jon Snow was not a major contributor.
No, didn't really have any big decisive impact on anything. And his one big ditch attempt, he didn't help Daenerys against the Ice Dragon really. Maybe just like this, the fact that he was there, kind of like, maybe if it was just Daenerys versus the Ice Dragon, that would have been more of a wipeout for her. So maybe just the fact that he was there to kind of like absorb some of the ice fire attacks, maybe that helped out there. What about Ghost? Did Ghost make it out?
I think we would have seen Ghost's on-screen death. So I assume that Ghost is also okay. And again, the chat will correct us if that's the case. What was Bran doing through most of this battle? Because I think that many of us thought, all right, Bran is going to warg into a dragon. He's a secret weapon here. He's going to go toe-to-toe with the Night King. We saw him warg into crows, go look at what the Night King was doing. But other than that, like what was, when Bran's eyes were rolling back in his head, what was he contributing in any way? Or was it like, oh, I need to just look completely catatonic so the Night King can really slow walk up to me so Arya can get him with the dagger?
Maybe he just wanted to watch. He's like us. He's a fan. He wanted to see what was happening. I'm just going to go. He's like, you do your thing. I'm going to go watch the show from the perspective of the crows. I did expect like a crow attack. I thought like right at the end there was going to be like
something.
Yeah, like bring in the crows to protect your human form. I thought there was going to be like some kind of like, again, like not much. You're right, not much agency from Bran. He's like, all he says is, "I'm going to go now," and then he says to Theon, you're a good man.
You're a good man, Theon. Yeah,
you're a good man.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was pretty much it from Bran. He kind of did he give away Arya, like he kind of like looked where she was coming from. Am I wrong? Like,
Well, I don't think he gave it away because Arya was able to get the jump, and I did love there were Arya. Not only did she have the jump on the Night King and save the day, she also had the lines of the episode where she gives Sansa the dragon glass dagger and says like, I don't know how to use this. We have the callback to early on, stick him with the pointy end, which is what Jon says to her when she first gets Needle. We also had the moment with Melisandre, where Melisandre at one point was on Arya's list, and she goes back to that moment they had in season 3 about all of the eyes that she's going to shut, and green eyes, brown eyes, blue eyes, and we're saying, okay, well, who has this color eyes? Who has this color eyes? And I think that we missed that it was right there that blue eyes of the Night King.
Yeah, and Melisandre came to explain. Remember that clever reference I said?
Yes.
Now you get it. Now you get it.
Yeah. And then Melisandre says to Arya, "What do we say to the
God of Death?
The God of Death? Not today." I'm like, hold on. Yeah. Was Syrio Forel really Melisandre?
They're all Jack and Hagar.
They were all Jack and Hagar? No. So I thought so many great callbacks here.
Yeah, a lot of really great callbacks. What did you think? So this was, Beric Dondarrion's purpose. We see the final death of Beric Dondarrion, who has died many times and been brought back by the Lord of Light many times. Was this a good, fitting final end to Beric?
No. I mean, it was good that he saved Arya, and ultimately we get the reason why the Lord of Light brought him back so many times was that that Arya was going to be the person to take out the Night King. But I mean, was it Beric Dondarrion? I don't really ever have a great feel for him as a character. It seemed like that the last 3 episodes, all he's doing is Clegane.
We really need you.
Yeah. And that was really it. I did love all the stuff with the Hound and Arya.
Yeah. I mean, the Hound wanting to save Arya made sense, but the two of those guys, this didn't make sense to me. They're like, oh, Arya needs saving. Let's abandon the battle and go save that one girl over there.
Yeah. So there's that big 15 minutes in the middle of everything where all of a sudden it was like a different show. Where
it was before, the Benny Hill show.
Well, yeah, it was like this. It was like a scene out of The Walking Dead where there's thousands of these whites that are just pouring through the gates of Winterfell, but then Arya's in sort of the Great Hall of Winterfell, or maybe that's what it was. And far be it from me to quibble on a library with you. And she's having all she's sneaking through and hiding behind. I've never seen the whites act like that on Game of Thrones.
Yeah, they're more of a swarm kind of movement and attack motion. They don't kind of ramble around through but books are very distracting. We all kind of want to get lost in that imaginative world.
Yeah, I could have sworn I thought at one point Arya was going to push over one of the bookcases and then dominoes knock down all of the bookcases in the library.
Yeah, the thing where she takes the book and throws it and it makes a sound to distract the whites, and then she runs out. Yeah, classic.
Yeah, it was very much then when she was hiding under the desk. We had the drip of blood was attracting the whites. It was like Jurassic Park, hiding from one of the T-Rexes.
Yeah. So is Arya the prince that was promised? Is
Arya Stark Azor on high? That's interesting.
I mean, because the point of the prince that was promised, right, is to basically take out the Night King. Am I missing something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, does it matter? Does it matter at this point?
I don't know. I mean, we've been debating the identity of Azor Ahai for years and years. First we think it's Stannis, it's not Stannis. Oh, is it Jon? Is it really Jon? What if it's really Dany? We've all said. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know. I've said. And now it looks like it was Arya. You don't think? I mean, I feel like some kind of this episode is such a huge conclusive moment for Game of Thrones.
Yeah. But what does it mean? Okay, let's say, Arya is Azor on high, the princess who was promised. Now what? Should she be on the Iron Throne?
No, she just, she saved the realm, and history has been made. And, sometimes, it's not just about thrones, Rob. It's also about, saving all humanity from endless darkness.
Yeah. Stephen, I am just so confused about where we go from here. Like, what's Bran's purpose the rest of the series?
Yeah, it just to be creepy, like make cryptic remarks.
Mm-hmm.
It is true. Well, that's why I did think that there was going to be more of a. I mean, part of why. I mean, both for the emotional impact and for just the logistical impact of like why I thought there was going to be more of a bloodbath, like Grey Worm. Like, why did Grey Worm make it out of this battle? I really thought this was the end for Grey Worm.
Yeah, I thought so too, but he does somehow, like, I don't understand how anybody that was like on the front line ends up making it through this.
The one we need to talk about most of all is Jorah Mormont, who's in the initial charge.
Yes.
We see him, very first charge, we see him run back, my initial thought was like, gosh, Jorah.
Why'd he come back? I'm like, oh wait, he's a white now.
Yeah, that was pretty fast. Did we see him again? We probably saw him again, and then literally out of nowhere, just as Dany is about to be overwhelmed, he comes. Like, was he just like hanging outside the gate the whole time? And did none of the other whites like bother him for some reason?
There's a couple people like that. Like, I saw Sam a couple times, like in a pile of whites. Somehow he came out of it, and we saw Tormund out there the whole time, and Brienne, and Jaime. I don't know how any of these people survived.
Yeah, I don't have such a huge problem with them, beating back at the very cost of, all of their effort and then somehow living. It's when he swoops in from the side with it just doesn't make sense at all. Like, really, was Jorah outside the walls the whole time?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I
guess so. I guess he was.
He's an incredible swordsman. The one that I was like, what? Was Beric, when he's letting Arya and the Hound get away, and he's standing there and then just being stabbed a million times by the whites, and then somehow he got away and then was able to catch up to Arya and the Hound and get into the next room with them.
Yeah, and would have had to somehow take out the whites, right? Because otherwise they would have been there with him. So
maybe they got distracted. Maybe they heard Arya or somebody drop another book. Yeah, and they ran for it. So we're bouncing around over everything. So let me ask you, just sort of big picture: did this episode live up to the hype for you?
I need time to process it, because I'm still when Arya jumped up and killed the Night King, I was like, holy shoot, what an incredible twist. We're just expecting this big fight with Jon and the Night King, and then out of nowhere it's Arya. What a great moment. Instead of it being this macho swords dude, it's this plucky girl who we love more than anybody, and she's the one who's the one to take down the Night King. I thought that was so cool in the moment. And then I go onto Twitter, and of course there are people who are like, this is so corny, out of Deus Ex Machina, out of nowhere, how lame. And so I just need time to process it and think is it cool because it was such a cool moment, or is it a great fitting end to this story? I haven't digested all of it yet.
Yeah. I think that we're probably being ungrateful to the gods of television if we're being we're being a little critical of things that happen in the episode. But I think overall, I don't know where you are getting more entertainment for an hour and 20 minutes on a TV show. I mean, this was a movie.
Yeah, it was a movie. It was it was probably it has to be one of the biggest, most most giant battles ever filmed.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's got to be up there among certainly the longest, most epic in scope, great battles in TV and cinematic history.
Yeah. I mean, it was incredible. I wonder, how does the show top this? I mean, that's what's so weird about this being in episode 3, where you have all the stuff with Cersei and King's Landing, which has a whole set of emotional stakes that this doesn't have. But this had a scope that
Yeah.
the other side of it doesn't have it. And I guess that the biggest thing, like from a narrative point of view, comes from that, like where we said, like, well, how does Cersei even match up against Daenerys and dragons and Unsullied and Dothraki and, the rest of the realm? Now it's, the tables are, if not turned, very evenly matched.
Yeah. And, it was funny in sort of like the next week on, like seeing like Euron Greyjoy like prancing around and you're like, what? This guy? Like we just saw the end of the Night King. Like who cares about what like Euron Greyjoy is doing?
Mm-hmm.
But it will be nice that it looks like the color palette is a lot warmer and richer. We're going to have a lot more like clear visuals. Very excited.
Is winter over now with the Night King is dead?
But winter is seasonal, right? It hasn't just. I mean, I think in Game of Thrones, land, it's not just about the Night King bringing winter. It's because winters last X number of years, but it's a constant seasonal shift.
Like I wonder if that we're just gonna drop that it's winter in the final 3 episodes.
Well, it's I mean, they're going south anyway, right? Presumably, right. So it will be a warmer climb.
Oh yes, but in the visions that Dany saw in the House of the Undying, of course we had the dragons flying over King's Landing and snow, and King's Landing being destroyed. And I know it was a very popular theory this week where I heard it talked about almost like it was fact. Night King is not in Winterfell. That Night King, and I thought we were going to get that when Bran looked up in the crows and then saw the Night King flying on Viserion, that, Night King's not in King's Landing, but he most certainly was. Yeah. Night King's not in Winterfell, and he most certainly was.
Right.
Yeah.
I do think that's part of like this, the weekly episodic structure. And when you have this insanely active community where it's like, all of the normal rational takes are like digested and thought of within the first like 3 hours. And then you've got like a whole week to just like spin off and to come up with like crackpot theories and lunatic takes.
Yeah, but some of these really get a lot of steam and they're just reported like it's absolutely going to be factual.
Well, and I think that's the challenge for the show too. It's like, how do you stay ahead of the fandom? And I guess that was my point too with the sort of low body count. It's like we have built up, there's been this like constant like Twitter presence of like, I'm ready to say goodbye to all of my loved ones, here. And so you kind of lose, if without that build, I don't think I felt a little bit of a sense of loss that we didn't lose more people.
Mm-hmm. Stephen, let's talk about the action in the crypts in this episode. And then as many people predicted, the Winterfell crypts did come to life. And it did seem like nobody left the crypts though.
Well, the door was closed. Maybe
they locked them in.
Well, I don't know if they were locked in, but it did seem that the door was closed because people earlier in the episode, right? Sansa went down to the crypts, but then there was that moment when people were banging on the crypt door, like let us in, let us in. They didn't open the door. I mean, they had to assume based on that moment that the castle was overrun too. It's kind of this like thing where damned if you do, damned if you don't. My big question is, in the aftermath, how are they going to figure out which body goes where? Like, who is which Stark?
I think they got a lot of bodies to sort out. I think that's for another day. I mean, did somebody kill some of the whites that were there? I mean, we saw like a couple people that were like near the, different entombments. I don't know what you would call that.
Tombs?
But a couple people got. And then we didn't see anybody kill any whites, and then they just went back to like everybody huddling in a corner.
But those were like real. They had been dead for so long. I'm sure it took.
They broke through their things.
Yeah, and that probably took a lot of their energy. They probably were like gassed out after that.
What'd you think about Sansa and Tyrion, who have a couple of moments in the episode? It was a great line where Sansa and Tyrion were talking before they went down to the crypts, and Sansa says to Tyrion, you were the best of all of them. And Tyrion's like, well, that is a horrifying thought.
Yeah. And then again in the crypts, they have sort of a moment of if it weren't for the Dragon Queen, it could, it might have worked for between us. And then Melisandre, of course, says, if it weren't for the Dragon Queen, we'd all be dead. But I thought it did seem like they were sort of playing up this kind of Sansa Tyrion, the possibility of them reconciling. I think, one pretty common fan theory. I think Josh has said it. Maybe that's why it's common. It's because Josh has said it. Is that Tyrion and Sansa will end up together.
Josh has been has said that before, and I thought it was kind of a long shot, but I think that this episode tonight did lay a lot of groundwork for that.
Yeah, it really did seem like it was setting up that Tyrion and Sansa might just end up together. Not necessarily, maybe as rulers of Winterfell, maybe as just like picking up the pieces. I'm curious, how much do you think that this is book canon? Because I also had the idea that like Martin had given the showrunners, the broad strokes of what was going to happen. Is this how the Night King is going to die in the books?
I mean, you're asking the wrong guy. I mean, the stories that I hear is like they had lunch with George R.R. Martin, and he sort of wrote on the back of a napkin what was going to go on. And I think they're filling in a lot of details.
Yeah, but who kills the Night King has got to be one of those like major plot points that he's like, he told them the Hodor thing, right? That was something that he gave them.
Steven, I have some bad news for you about the books.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. What is Sansa's story from here on out?
That's a really good question.
Restocking the grain at Winterfell?
Yeah, I mean, a lot fewer mouths to feed now. She must, she's got an easier job. Does she go south? I don't really see it, right? She doesn't make sense for her to like participate in the final battle. Also kind of would be weird for her not to be there, to have that sort of, Cersei was such a evil, horrible presence in Sansa's life. Mm-hmm. And so if Cersei assuming Cersei does go down, to not give Sansa a moment with that, I think would be. I
can't imagine that Sansa leaves Winterfell to participate in this battle against Cersei.
Yeah, no, I agree. So yeah, that's a good question. Like, is this the end for Sansa? And like, when we go, when we do those that storyline down south, like, are we flashing back, or are we jumping back up north to see kind of how the survivors are sort of picking up the pieces of literally picking up the pieces of what's happened?
Yeah, I don't know what Bran and Sansa and some of these other characters have going on for these final 3 episodes. It's going to be very interesting to see how the show pivots now, where you had a whole first half of a season all about this, and now we're going to have a whole back half of the final season dealing with the intrigue in the Iron Throne.
Yeah, I mean, and it's going to be really interesting to see. I mean, again, like, I was really surprised by how many people made it out of this episode, which means are these people just going to live through? In which case, it's almost disappointing if everyone makes it out alive. But
yeah,
well,
who? Give me some names. Give me some names.
I don't know. Like, Brienne, is Brienne going to make it out of the whole series?
Yeah, I kind of think she is. I mean, wow. I think she's going to be fine.
Yeah,
might end up with Jaime.
Podrick, yeah, who knows? That could
Podrick
be.
Podrick could still die in the upcoming battle. He could die. That's possible.
Clegane.
He's got to have the Clegane ball.
Yeah. Yeah. What else? I mean, you're right. I guess most of the other big characters are really set for this big final King's Landing showdown.
Okay. All right. So we still want to take a look at what you guys are saying on social media. Let me thank our sponsor for this Game of Thrones recap, and those are our friends over at Blue Diamond Almonds, because if you are watching Game of Thrones, you don't have time for the same old boring snacks. Not tonight. Well, let me tell you, winter is here, so is the perfect snack. Blue Diamond Almonds. Whether you're going to work, if you're bored at work, or leaving work, these almonds are the perfect snack. The honey roasted flavored almonds, sriracha flavored almonds, and the wasabi and soy sauce flavored almonds. Those are going to get your attention, Steven. Why keep snacking on boring chips when you can go to the store and pick up Blue Diamond Almonds right now? Steven, the Blue Diamond Almonds, I believe that's what Melisandre saw in Arya's future, right?
Yes, there will be, you will eat many almonds. There will be sriracha almonds. There will be wasabi almonds. Yes. And they will all be.
Do you have a sriracha fiery moment of the night, Steven?
Oh, wow. A sriracha fire moment had to be Arya coming up from behind the Night King just at that huge climactic moment, and giving him the old 1-2 stabberoo.
Whatever the moment, Blue Diamond Almonds is the perfect snack. Don't deny your cravings. Go pick up some great flavors right now and eat them. Blue Diamond Almonds. Crave victoriously. All right. Steven, I am scrolling through some of the questions we have from the listeners, and are there any Dothraki left? Mr. Robot Taran wants to know.
Oh man, it sure didn't seem like that. But those poor Dothraki. Okay, also that was a really cool moment when they all charged out with
that
the
was,
flaming sword.
and then the show really did make use at times of how dark it was, where it's like, all right, here we go, here comes Melisandre, and
exactly.
all right, everybody's swords are on fire. All right, yes, and then to only have them like you're watching from the distance, like, oh no, this is not good. This is not good. All right, Jorah better retreat.
Yeah. Jorah, like there was just a few of them made it back. Really was Jorah really chickened out early. It was like the horse, like first came the horses and then came Jorah.
Yes, he definitely did. Let's see. Zach Brooks wants to know, did Arya use a dead person's face to get close to the Night King? People seem to think so. Is that possible? Did Arya take off a face? Maybe we'll see this in a deleted scene of one of the expired, dead people.
This seems like one of those things where this is just going to be, your mileage may vary. From my viewing of the show, I don't feel like that's a likely scenario, but I think for someone who believes that, there probably won't be anything to either prove or refute that idea.
Aren't all the faces she takes of dead people already?
Right. So like, why not actually be a dead? Because you could like shamble around, but like, it's not, I guess that really gets into the, the mechanics of how dead people are figuring out where the living are and who's dead, like how do they know not to turn on their own?
Mm-hmm.
Is it like, is it like a smell thing? I mean, I guess it's a sight thing. We kind of, we know that they can hear pretty well, the book throwing, so that we know that they got good hearing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Tom Palmer says, so Arya was actually useful while Jon Snow and Bran were pointless. Like the entire rest of the series. Oh, come on. Jon Snow wasn't always useless. Stop it.
Yeah, he was a crucial, he went beyond the wall, brought back the white.
Mm-hmm.
He died, he was Lord Commander of the Night's Watch.
Yeah. Okay.
Battle of the Bastards. He was an important part of that, even though he would have died too, had another Deus Ex Machina not come out from the side of the screen. This show loves a good Deus Ex Machina, and there were quite a number this episode. We really had a lot of last minute saves this episode.
Yes. What was your favorite?
I mean, obviously the Arya was the best one. The Jorah was my least favorite one because I hope someone gives me some theory for what Jorah was doing that enabled him to swoop in and save
You're hung up on this.
I really am. I was really, there were a couple of great dragon saves, but like those didn't bother me because like they were, we'd set that up. Like that's what the dragons were there for. That's what they were doing. They were circling, ready to, blast the dead to smithereens. That was really cool, by the way. Also, when Drogon blasts the Night King was such a cool moment. Another just like all these great moments that we've been anticipating. So
I mean, the score was really incredible throughout the whole episode, and then they gave you like a little bit of like a bump when Dany blasts the Night King, but then ultimately you feel like, this is probably not working.
Yeah, exactly. It was not, although there was like a moment, right, where it's like, is he ashed? Was he incinerated? Is he gone?
Mm-hmm. Nope, he was still there.
That T-1000, like, I'm sure we all heard that. Like, I heard the do as he like walked out of the flame.
Right. This is also from Mr. Robot Taran. Which death saddened you the most, Steven?
Dolorous Ed?
No.
If Ghost is dead, that is retroactively saddening me the most.
He did not die, I don't believe.
No, I'm a big Beric Dondarrion fan, so I was really sad to see him go. And I did expect it to be like a more climactic moment. Like, yes, we now know that he saved Arya so that Arya could save, humanity. But I did sort of think it was kind of like it was a little bit lame.
I think that the show wanted to have Jorah was the climactic death. That was the one that they wanted to give you the pack the biggest emotional punch.
Did that do it for you?
I thought he died like 2 or 3 other times before that.
He really got stabbed quite a few times, and he like stood up and was like, "Nope, not that one. Yeah, I'm good."
Lyanna Mormont went out a hero. Iconic. She died as though she lived. She stabbed the giant in the eye.
Yeah. always giving it to those giant dudes, fearless.
Yes. Let's see. What's the one thing that should have happened in this episode based on the story we got tonight? AKA, who should have had a death, Steven?
I really was expecting Brienne to die.
That's from Alex Day.
I'm shocked that Brienne didn't die. I'm also very surprised Grey Worm didn't die. It just seemed like, one of those big name frontliners should have died. As you said, we saw them like repeatedly just chopping away at the undead army. And it almost felt like a cheat for none of them to die. Or Tormund, Tormund. I mean, all characters I love. I love Tormund. I'm such a huge Tormund fan, but I really was anticipating, one of them.
Yeah, I think that Grey Worm and Brienne are the two that probably it's the most incredulous that they have somehow survived this, especially after last week's episode.
Yeah. Yeah, they both had such big character moments last week. Grey Worm with Melisandre, talking about their island retreat. And obviously Brienne being knighted. And then it actually, like, in some ways it's a good thing because it kind of would have been corny if they had those character moments and then they immediately died afterward. It would have been like almost like too on the nose.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in that respect, I guess I like it.
Okay. Steven, we have 3 episodes left in this entire series that I expect next week is going to be another episode of, setting the table for a climactic battle, which I think is taking place in episode 5. And then it sounds like that episode 6 might be a lot of cleanup.
Yeah. Well, that sounds like a great 3 episodes to anticipate. It sounds like a lot of fun or a lot of misery, a lot of tragedy.
Okay. Anything else that you want to say about tonight's episode?
Yeah, I really liked when the Night King controlled the weather. I thought that was a really cool moment where like the dragons take to the sky and it seems like, wow, the good guys have got air superiority. They've got fire on their side. They're like burning up the armies of the dead. And then boom, the Night King like brings in like the deadly frost wind.
Yes, like a tornado.
Yeah, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so many different things I'm sure we will get into on our feedback show as well. Looking forward to getting into your questions. I definitely need to go back and watch this all again. GOT@postshowrecaps.com. You can also leave us a voicemail at postshowrecaps.com/voicemail. I'm sure Josh is going to be inundated, but I'm sure you can also send him a tweet as well to @RoundHoward. Also go to postshowrecaps.com/feedback. All right, Steven, are you going to be able to sleep tonight?
I mean, you mean I will be both in a mental turmoil and physical pain.
Okay. Are you doing okay?
Yeah, I'm all right.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right. Thanks, everybody who joined us live after all this excitement. I know it's a late night on the East Coast with all this. Can you believe, Steven, 3 weeks from tonight, Game of Thrones will be over?
Oh, my God. That's wild. We'll know what happened. There's no way that knowing will be better, more fun than anticipated.
Yeah. Such is life, Steven. Who's on the Iron Throne at the end of all of this? We're halfway through this final season.
I mean, I'm with you. I don't think there will be an Iron Throne.
Yeah. The Jon and Dany tension this week took a backseat to everything that was going on. Do you think that now, in the light of day, we revisit the big development that Jon shared with Dany last week?
Yeah, I do think so. I mean, I think like there was a lot of tension with Dany from everyone, right? From Sansa, there was tension with Dany. With Jon, there was tension. It would have been weird for them to be like bickering over, right? Like whose daughter or niece when the army of the dead were coming. And I think they they probably will establish that. And I thought that the sort of Tyrion, Sansa, Melisandre scene maybe kind of was like the little nod to those tensions that's thing, without them sort of taking over the battle.
Okay. All right, Steven, great job. Thanks, everybody, for joining us live. We will be back midweek with Josh Wigler for the Game of Thrones feedback show. Be sure to follow everything that Josh is doing over on thr.com/Game of Thrones. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.